voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money, you can cash it. For news on LA Hoops, come over to Peach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports. Debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man.
All right. Well, it's playoff time. I'm excited to say we generally come to you on Saturday night with our Run It Back Week in Review show. This is a little different. We wanted to wait until all of the games were complete and they're done now. We know who's playing who, and we wanted to do a special show to but to actually talk about each game, the play-in tournament, who's playing who's going to beat who, and more. We're Peach Basket. We're a site dedicated to all things basketball, and I'm excited to share not a lot of news right now, but some news. More stuff is coming as it relates to our site. We started as a small site, really dedicated to just a couple of teams, and we've started to grow really without much of an effort on my part or anybody's part. It just kind of happened, which is really exciting. And we're going to try and take that next step. So there's a lot of good things coming down the pike during and after the NBA playoffs. I really would love for y'all to kind of stay tuned. We'll share bits and pieces of that as we kind of get closer to some of those the bits of news that we want to share. But the one thing we absolutely want to share is what this pandemic has shown me is that we're all analysts, man. We're all basketball fans and basketball analysts. The best analysts aren't all on TV. One of the things that we are going to kind of hang our hat on as a site is that we want to be more than just a website. We want to be a community of like-minded basketball fans where every basketball fan has a place to share their passion. If you want to talk on a podcast, we got that lined up for you. You want to write about your favorite team, we got that lined up for you. You want to stream, you want to podcast, you want to get involved in building a site, or just talking about your team. We got you covered. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to be, because that's who we are. We're just passionate fans. We also believe that the best basketball analysts aren't all on TV. They're watching the games just like we're watching the games now. There's really no distinction between what it is they're doing and what it is that we're doing. We're fortunate to have three of our partners and writers today, contributors for Peach Basket, that are incredible analysts. They're passionate about their teams, and they are just as good as some of the people out there writing about the teams, commenting about the teams, analyzing the teams. So we're excited to share those insights with you. And if you want to be a part of what it is that we're doing, I'd love to hear from you. Absolutely love to hear from you. We're a site dedicated to basketball for fans that are passionate of basketball. If that's you, reach out. Today, we're going to cover an overview of the Lakers, the Celtics, the Clippers, and the Heat, four of the teams that at least have a really good chance of winning the NBA championship, some more than others. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then we're going to talk about the play-in tournament specifically, and we're going to make our predictions. All right. So let's go ahead and get it started the way we normally do, and that is by going all across the country to talk to these lead writers. And forgive me for not being 100% ready, but I am now. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to change this screen here so you guys can see that just a little bit better. We're going to drop the pin in or around Los Angeles and bring in Ajay. Ajay is our lead writer for the Los Angeles Lakers, knows the team just as well as anybody covering them. And that's what I mean, right? The best analysts aren't all on TV. Some of them are right in front of you right now. Ajay, tell us a little bit about the Lakers. I know they had a rough end to the season, but they're locked and loaded right now. They're fully healthy and ready to go. So go ahead. Tell us about their chances and what you see for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Lakers had a rough season. Injuries just kept on piling one or another throughout the season. LeBron goes down, then AD, then LeBron got hurt again, took a couple games off. But now the Lakers are entering the playoffs, or the play-in game, I should say, on a 5-game win streak, beating the Suns, the Knicks, the Rockets, the Pacers, and Pelicans. And they're turning the corner offensively. Defense is still an issue, but they're still a true contender, as you can see during the last regular season. The game, there was a bunch of tankathon, I would call it, going on between the Nuggets, the Clippers, and other teams, just to avoid being on the same side bracket of the Lakers. And to go on further, we'll talk about a little bit of the playing game right now. They're playing the Golden State Warriors. They're 2-1 against them this year. Honestly, it could be easily 3-0. If you guys remember that game, Lakers were up big, but it took a Steph Curry Herculean effort to make that comeback and beat the Lakers in that game. So it could really be 3-0, but we'll call it 2-1 right now against the Golden State Warriors. Key players for this playoff run, obviously LeBron and AD got to stay healthy, but outside of that is what I tend to focus on. Is going to be Dennis Schroeder and KCP along with the other role players. Schroeder's playmaking ability to take a little bit load off LeBron instead of LeBron creating opportunities for other players is going to be vastly huge for Schroeder to contribute in that area, especially with LeBron on a bum ankle or tweaking or is not 100% fully on that ankle. So that's going to be Schroeder's main responsibility, to create driving lanes for himself, but also create opportunities for other players such as KCP. And KCP's important role to this playoff run is going to be hitting the open shots. Because if he's not hitting the open shots, that means they're going to concentrate more on AD when he's posting up, LeBron driving in, or Drummond. And Drummond can't extend his range because he's just primarily a post-up player.
Right.
So it's going to come down to KCP, Kuzma, and THT surprisingly recently has been hitting his threes at a higher clip than he was earlier in the season. So KCP is going to be the leader of the pack hitting those threes, and then it's going to come down to KCP and then all the other players hitting those threes to give the proper space to Anthony Davis and Drummond in the paint to work.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was going to say the good news is Frank Vogel and LeBron said that he's close to 100%. So as far as regarding key news for the Lakers, everything's fully ready to go for a deep playoff run.
Right. One thing I've noticed about the Lakers, they are elite defensively when they need to be, right? They don't play great defense the whole game, and no team in the NBA does. I don't even think Michael Jordan's Bulls did. What they do is they know when it's time, right, to get a stop, and they get a stop. I mean, their defense is just amazing when it needs to be. That's number one. So if it's a close game, they got a great closer in LeBron, and they've got that elite defense. But I think they live and die on that three-point shot. LeBron's phenomenal. Obviously, AD is phenomenal. But if they don't have those peripheral guys, like you mentioned, right, they don't have KCP shooting and making his threes. If they don't have, Schroeder's not necessarily a three-point shooter, but if he's not scoring, if Kyle Kuzma isn't hitting his threes, that's when they get into some trouble, right? Because when those shots are clanking, they're just not creating that space for the other players like LeBron to drive or AD to maneuver down low. So to me, that's kind of a key. I mean, do you agree? Do you think 3-point? And I think you kind of said it initially, so I'm just kind of writing on your coattails here. But what do you think about that being a key for them?
No, that's 100% true, because I think the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken, offensively, I think they're ranked 22, but defensively they're ranked number 1. And maybe the numbers are a little bit skewed offensively because AD and LeBron missed the majority of the season. But still, right, if they're not knocking down to 3, then it's going to create a huge problem. As I stated earlier, AD is not going to have his proper space to post up, or not even the big-to-big connection that we saw in these couple of games where AD had the proper space, and because all the other guys are hitting the threes, they're worried about him, so they go up to AD and they try to contest it, but that leaves Drummond open for an easy lob, a big-to-big lob, which is kind of hard to do in today's game. So I believe the three-point shooting is going to be critical along with their defense for this postseason run for sure.
Yeah, easily the most dangerous 7 or 8 seed in the history of the NBA finals or playoffs ever, in my opinion. Golden State versus, the Warriors versus the Lakers, by far the most exciting game. Well, at least the game I'm most excited to see. We'll talk a little bit about our predictions later, so we'll save that. But see what I mean, guys? That was great analysis. The best analysts aren't all on TV. Some are right here. All right, Ajay, thanks, man. We're going to drop the pin now. Whoops. all the way to Boston. We're cheating just a little bit because the next guy we're going to bring in isn't in Boston, but he's a Boston guy, and Boston Celtic fans are all over the country, really all over the world. Kind of annoyingly so sometimes. This is Daniel. He's been a contributor writing with the Peach Basket for a while. And Daniel and I actually did a show like this for the playoffs. If it wasn't last season, it might have been the season before that. So kind of really excited to have him back. And, when I say these guys know the game, these guys are great analysts. Daniel definitely fits into that category. So tell us about the Celtics. I know it was a rough season. I know it's rough to be a Celtics fan. They give you a great game, and then they give you a real dud. And then that's rough, man. That's rough. But they're in the play-in, and so at least they've got an opportunity. Tell us about the state of the Celtics.
Yeah, as you mentioned, all season long, it was just a roller coaster. They'd have great wins against like the Clippers and all those teams, and then they'd come back with losses to the Thunder, the Cavs, the Pistons, and it was that all season long. And then unfortunately, some people thought in the playoffs, the Celtics were just in the conference finals. They could easily go back again. And any people who thought that had their hopes shot down on last week, actually, when Jaylen Brown was announced, he is out for the remainder of the playoffs. He's out 3 months after undergoing wrist surgery. So that kind of put a little, it hurt the Celtics. You could tell by their on-court play for the next couple games. They didn't really seem engaged at all. They lost 2 straight to Miami, which basically guarantees them the 7th seed. And then their final 3 games were against 2 teams under 500 in the Knicks. And surprisingly, the game that had the reserves play and no starters was the best game they played. Yes, they beat the Timberwolves. Tatum and Fournier were the only starters who played in that because they didn't like the way they played the game before against Cleveland when they lost. So they got a little bit of a rhythm going to the playoffs. And I loved yesterday's game against the Knicks. It was just the reserves, and they played super well against a team that made the playoffs as a 4th seed. So it was really cool to see. As for the play-in, I'm scared of this Wizards team. They got hot at the end of the season. Westbrook, as everyone knows, is putting up insane numbers. He has an all-time record for triple doubles. Bradley Beal came back. He wasn't exactly himself, and he admitted today that he might not be himself for tomorrow's game. But he was number 2 in the scoring list all season. It's going to be tough. In my opinion, I'm not sure if I'm the Celtics, I want them to win. I talked about this on my podcast I released today. I feel like it'd be the best case scenario if they lost and played the Sixers. I don't think they'd maybe beat the Sixers, but I think it'd be a way better chance to beat the Sixers than obviously the big 3 in Brooklyn. So as I mentioned, the best case scenario, they could take Philadelphia to 7 games, I believe. Maybe they could win, maybe they couldn't, but I think they have a chance. And the key player, it's Jason Tatum. Just straight up, is he capable of carrying this team like we've seen from Jimmy Butler from years past, from LeBron? I'm not saying Tatum is LeBron, but could he put up those numbers? Kemba Walker's been playing good basketball recently. He set season highs in 5 straight games, which is pretty good. Fournier's finally getting to the rhythm. Marcus Smart got a couple days off after struggling a little bit, so hopefully he's okay. And just for the news, the Celtics were without a couple players last week, but everyone is expected to play except for Jaylen Brown, which is huge news. Robert Williams is a game-time decision, but I believe he is most likely to play. So, injuries have hurt the Celtics as well as many other teams. So hopefully the Celtics can win. But if I'm the Celtics, I'm not sure I want to win that game and face Brooklyn in the first round. Interesting.
When I think Jason Tatum, I immediately think Kobe. I know they were close. Oh, yeah. I know that there was a real connection there. I know that he modeled his game, after Kobe. This is in my mind's eye, this is Jason Tatum's Kobe moment. Kobe became Kobe when he threw that lob to Shaq for the dunk, when he just went off as a 7th seed against the Phoenix Suns, who were the number 2 seed, and almost beat that team all by himself. When he willed a team to victory, almost victory, and then in other times certainly victory. So now this is Jason Tatum's time. The Lakers weren't. Even Kobe. Kobe was a bench player for a long time, and then he became Kobe. It's time for Jason Tatum to become Jason, right? A guy that you think of with just one name. It might be Tatum. I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about. This might be it's got to be his moment. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Let me put it to you this way, because you list the worst cases missing the playoffs. Should
I want to talk about that. I totally missed that, if that's okay.
No, yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. The reason why, I mean, obviously, worst case, if they miss the playoffs, that's horrible, because this team should not be missing the playoffs after just making the conference finals. But also, just for my own personal life, I really do not want to deal with Boston media if the Celtics were to miss the playoffs, because all offseason it will be fire Ainge, fire Stevens, trade Kemba, trade Smart. Some people are even saying trade Jalen or Jason. And I don't have the energy for that. It's just so much work. And then you'll see it all offseason. And I don't want to deal with that. But on a serious note, it would just be horrible. Yes, Jaylen Brown's out and he's a huge part of this team, but I think missing the playoffs would be like inexcusable. That's just horrible. Yeah,
and that was what I was going to ask. Do they blow up the team? And it certainly sounds like the media will want that. Be interesting to see what Danny Ainge does. All right, outstanding. Great overview, great recap of the Boston Celtics. We've got them listed as a bubble team. Like we said, I think we started with that. We'll see how things turn out with them. Now, Daniel, we didn't talk about this, but I'm going to ask you to hang on, because right now we're going to go all the way back across the country, back to LA, and talk Clippers. But I'm the Clipper guy today. I'm the designated Clipper guy. So I don't want to do this solo. So if you don't mind, just stay there. And just ask me questions, but don't stump me, because that would make me upset. So let's talk about the Clippers. I try to be very agnostic. I try not to, really be a fan of any particular team. The Clippers have got a special place with me because they are, the little brother. They're the franchise that just can't seem to get things right. And they're trying. Years past, decades past, they didn't try. Honestly, I mean, their coach didn't try, their players didn't try. Nothing about that franchise was said winning. They've turned the corner in every conceivable way, from the owner to the front office to the players. This is a team that's built to win. And yet, last season, when they had just everything going their way, they couldn't do it. Now, of course, there was a pandemic, there was a bubble, but everybody played under the same rules. And the Clippers did what the Clippers had done before. And that's rough. And so I feel for them, because, I guess we root for the underdogs, and I can't think of a bigger underdog in the NBA than the Los Angeles Clippers. They are a contender. They are a favorite to certainly to reach at least the Western Conference Finals, something that as a franchise they've never done. They've got the Mavericks. The Mavericks are upset because they knocked them out 4-2 last season. We just talked about Jason Tatum needing his Kobe moment. Luka Doncic is going to have kind of a Kobe moment where he just takes over a series. It might be against the Clippers, which would be pretty frightening. But it could happen, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to do it. That's what they're going to need, I think, to get past the Clippers. Their best case is a world championship. I really think it's championship or bust. Paul George made a point last season to say when they lost, it's not championship or bust. And it may not have been then. This season it is. Kawhi Leonard can walk after this year. I think things are going to change if they don't at least make it to the Western Conference Final. But realistically, they've got to make it to the finals and compete. To me, the key player is Kawhi, not so much Paul George. Paul George had a horrible playoff run last year, but so did Kawhi. And Kawhi doesn't get a lot of the kind of the blame, but he didn't do what Kawhi did in San Antonio and in Toronto. And I think he's got to step up. He's got to lead this team. By playmaking, by taking shots, by blocking shots, by defending. And it'll be interesting to see if he can do that. But to me, he is the key guy. If Kawhi is going off, it's going to be a lot easier for Paul George and everybody else to get their shots. So he, to me, is the key. Now, again, they beat the Mavs 4-2. Both teams have a week to prepare, which is very interesting. Neither one of these guys are in the play-in. These two teams are in the playoffs, which is weird to me to think. If you're in the play-in, you're not in the playoffs yet. The Lakers have not yet made the playoffs. Neither have the Warriors, which is kind of weird. But that's what the play-in is, to play into the playoffs. But they have a week to prepare, which is going to really be very telling. which coaching staff is going to do a better job getting their team ready? I think a week. I mean, certainly that's a long time to go over, tape and actually watch tendencies. So, the first game specifically, I think is going to be very telling to me to see who did the better job preparing their team for the other. Certainly, anything less than a finals appearance changes a lot for this franchise. I think they might blow things up. Kawhi might walk. Jay actually wrote an article not too long ago about Kawhi's potential landing spot next season should the Clippers fail. So now a lot's riding on the fortunes of this team. One last thing I put down here: Clippers seem to back into this should have been series. I'm just going to move on. But they backed into it, man. They lost 2 games, late in the season when it really, when they could have won. They could have had the 2 seed, man. They could have had the 1 seed. And it's not to say they didn't want it. I'm sure that they played games to win them, but sometimes the coaching staff would put out, really questionable rotations and there was some mismatches, and Jay brought up he coined a phrase, the tankathon, which I tweeted quite a bit because I love the term, and the Clippers were fully engaged in tankathon mode, man. And to me, it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look for the NBA, and it wasn't a good look for the Clippers because they really backed into this series, but not a good look. The Clippers have got to get the stench off of the franchise from the way they ended the season, from the decades of past ownership and past failures. Nothing short of a really, I don't want to say a dominant run, but a run to the Western Conference Finals, ultimately finals. It's that or bust for this team. So that was it. That wasn't bad, right? I'm not the Clippers lead writer. Stu is for us. Hopefully one day he'll join us. But I thought that was pretty good. Thanks for joining me.
I got a question for you.
Right.
Do you believe that there's a chance that Dallas can actually beat the Clippers in the first round?
I don't want to answer that, so I'm going to move on. No, I'm just kidding. Is there a chance? There's always a chance. The only way, I'm glad you asked, because the only way that happens is Luka. If I'm the coach of the Clippers, I'm going to say, listen, Luka's going to get 30. He's going to get 30, 10, and 10. Let's just chalk that up already. We're not going to make it easy for him to get those 30, 10, and 10. We're just going to assume he's going to get 30, 10, and 10. The problem for the Mavericks is Porzingis has not been, the Anthony Davis to LeBron. He hasn't been the Anthony Davis to Luka that Anthony Davis has been to LeBron. Luka doesn't have that. They really thought that Porzingis was going to be that guy, and he hasn't been. So to me, if I had, Riley's our lead writer for the Mavs, and I'd love to have him on one day to talk about this. But to me, if I had, if I was talking about the Mavericks, the key player for the Mavericks is Porzingis. If he can go off and say average 25 and 10 rebounds or something and really do some damage, I mean, the guy is 7'3" with handle. He can shoot the three. He's a unicorn, man. He's Anthony Davis. He really is. He plays the same kind of game. I just don't think he's, as tough as Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis, I don't think of as a predominantly tough guy, but he's tougher than Porzingis, I think. But he can't stay healthy. He doesn't. There's been some rumors about them not liking each other, and you don't have to like each other, but you got to play well together. So. Long answer to your short question. Yeah, there's a chance, but it's got to be more than just Luka. Luka's got to be Luka, but there's got to be somebody else that steps up to get past the Clippers. That it?
Yeah,
easy.
I think that's all I got.
I nailed it, man. Home run.
I was going to talk about the intentional losses, but you kind of just hit on that. I just thought
that was sad. That was sad. That was a sad look, and that I really don't want to talk about because that was bad. I didn't like that. It really left a sour taste in my mouth. But right on. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Thank you. We're going to drop the pin now all the way back to the other side of the country. Oh, and I do want to mention before we go on, Daniel brought it up, and I I did want to mention it. He does do a podcast called the Green Sox Podcast, which is actually a great name. I haven't listened in a while. I'll be totally honest, but I have listened to a few, and they're really, really good. So if you like, the Boston teams, who are they? The Celtics, the Red Sox, the Patriots, those teams from that coast, the Bruins, then you definitely want to listen to the podcast.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. With that being said, now let's drop the pin in Miami and bring in, I'm going to get Daniel out, bring in Isaac. And the reason I wanted to create that little shout out, to talk about that little shout out for Daniel was because we do promote Isaac's site. He is our partner. He runs a site called FL Teams, where Daniel kind of concentrates on Boston. Isaac is all about Florida. It doesn't matter what team you are into. If they are from Florida, Isaac and his group knows all about them, writes all about them. We're happy to have him as our partner. He covers the Heat and the Magic for us, but the Magic aren't in the playoffs. The Heat are. Isaac, tell us about the Heat and their chances.
Thanks, Jose, for having me on, as always. Look, everyone, if you're an NBA fan, Heat culture, right? You know that no matter what seed the Heat come in as, they can make a far and surprising run. And that was obviously shown last year, right? And it's going to be shown this year. The Heat, right now, the 6th seed. Last year, they were the 5th seed. So talking about an unexpected run, I doubt this will be more surprising than last year's run because we know that he could do it, right? NBA fans saw what they did last year. But seed-wise, this would be more surprising. But look, the Heat will face off against the Bucks in the first round. A team that the Heat have gone 1-2 against this season, but that means nothing because, number one, the Miami Heat have Milwaukee's number these last few years, playoffs and regular season. And it's part of Eric Spoelstra, and I think he's the biggest piece. He really dissects Milwaukee's game plan. But also, I just think that the Bucks constantly choke in the playoffs. And it's one thing, you could choke against the Hawks, but the Heat are a team that you could easily choke against because the Heat are a good team. Again, we know the best case, Heat could win the NBA Finals. Worst case, their first round exit, losing to the Bucks. Their key player, Jimmy Butler. Look, as much as I wanted to put Tyler Hero on here, if Tyler Hero sucks, the Heat could still win. If Jimmy Butler sucks, the Heat cannot win, no matter what. So that's why Jimmy Butler's on there. But yes, honorable mention to Tyler Hero, because if Tyler Hero and Butler are having a good game, I don't care if Bam Adebayo just scores 10 points. The Heat will likely win. And look, the Heat are one of the best defensive teams in the playoffs. So Jimmy Butler's a big part of that. Finished the regular season leading the NBA in steals. Again, there's not really a lot of news. Thankfully, obviously, Victor Oladipo is the big news. He will be out for the playoffs. I know this is a little quick recap, so I do want to dissect this for about a minute. Look, Oladipo's out. Big deal. It is a big deal. The Heat have only gotten, I think, like 4 games out of him. And guess what? They traded Olynyk, who has been amazing on the Rockets this season.
Yeah.
So the Heat really could have used Oladipo come the playoffs next week. Olynyk, my bad. So Kelly Olynyk could have been big help for the Heat in the playoffs. Obviously, the playoffs haven't started yet, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But the point is, it wasn't that good of a trade. Now, hopefully, Oladipo will re-sign next year. He's going to become a free agent. But he's like a piece of plastic, right? He gets injured all the time.
And the thing about trades is you always need to see over time, right?
Yeah.
So should he re-sign and all of a sudden things click for the Heat and they they win a championship in 2022 and then they get in 23, it's a great trade, Yeah. But right now, I can see Olynyk has been incredible. I saw him recently in a couple of games, and he's looked great for the Rockets.
Yeah, and obviously, I think the big part of this Oladipo trade was to get him for the playoff run, and because he's a free agent, right? It's a 1-year signing deal.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like a prove it if you want a contract, right? To resign, but I think it was more of a use for the playoff run. But Olynyk would have been a good help.
Yeah.
But that's really it for the Heat. Hopefully they can do well, and I'm sure they will against the Bucks. Look, they stop Giannis, and he sucks. I don't want to mean that too rudely. He gets 20 points, which is not sucking, but compared to what his MVP self is, I am going to call that sucking.
Yeah.
And so that's basically that.
Yeah, and when you say he gets 20 points, that's his average against the Heat.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny because, you know, the Clippers do the same thing to Damian Lillard. He's a phenomenal scorer, but against the Clippers, you know, I want to say 17 to 20, right in that range, which is really good. Right?
Yeah. And
But
keep
it's
in
not
mind,
Dame.
Giannis should be dropping 40 to 45 points in the playoffs because of the minutes you're going to play.
And there's another guy who really could have his Kobe Bryant moment. On the weekend that Kobe was enshrined in the Hall of Fame, I think it's appropriate to bring up his name.
I do want to say
Butler
this.
or Giannis. Go ahead.
Jimmy Butler, I'm going to say it now, is him and Steph Curry are the top two most capable players that are capable of playing every minute in the game.
Yeah.
Curry, number one, and Jimmy Butler, number two. LeBron's injury is going to affect him for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that now. I think Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry are the top two players that are most capable of playing every minute in the game. And we saw that last year against the Lakers. Game 5, Jimmy Butler, man.
Epic.
Yeah.
Epic. One of the best basketball games I've ever seen, that game. All right, outstanding. Well, now we're going to shift focus just a little bit. Thank you for that Heat update. So we dove deep into 4 teams. Hopefully, as we move forward in this playoff series, we'll bring in people from other teams that can do the same for their teams until we get a good chunk of hopefully all of the playoff teams covered. But right now, we got to talk about this weird play-in tournament. One of our contributors, Nick, wrote a really good article about the Washington Wizards and how dangerous they are. And so Isaac put together a kind of an overview highlighting the Wizards as it relates to the play-in tournament and the play-in rules. So we want to go through it kind of quick because we do want to talk about the play-in. But I'm going to go ahead and just defer now to Isaac. I've got your information here. The Wizards were a phenomenal team, started out horribly. Definitely we'll see if I can't provide a link to Nick's article. You could read all about it. But then Westbrook started doing Westbrook things. Beal did Beal things. Not a great defensive team, but just an unbelievably dangerous team. So Isaac, let me hand it to you, and we'll talk about the Wizards as it relates to the play-in tournament, and then we'll come back and talk our predictions.
Yeah, so this is going to be a real quick slideshow presentation. So this will include how the Wizards, where they currently stand, how they can get the number 7 seed, how they can get the number 8 seed, how they could even miss out on the playoffs, and disadvantages and advantages of getting the number 7 seed, which obviously gives advantages of getting the 8 seed, right? Mm-hmm. The Wizards currently number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference, so they will play the number 7 seed Boston Celtics. The winner of that game will get the 7 seed. So quick little info about that. So again, Wizards beat the Celtics. They get the 7 seed. It's as simple as that.
And in the West, this is where the Lakers and the Warriors are, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And they can get the number 8 seed if they lose to the Celtics, but they have to beat the winner of the Hornets-Pacers game. The Hornets and Pacers are that 9 and 10 seed game. So now let's get into let's dissect this. So let's go to the advantages and disadvantages. Advantages. To get the number 7 seed, obviously they only have to win 1 game, right? So they can rest their players. They beat the Celtics. Boom. They make the playoffs, and specifically the 7 seed. Another advantage. The number 7 seed avoids playing the number 1 seed.
Right.
Which sounds good, but now let's go to disadvantages. You will have to face the Nets. The Nets are the 2nd seed, not the 1st seed, but I promise you, and I think every NBA fan knows that, the Celtics, and anyone could agree, right? I'm saying the Celtics because they're playing the Wizards, and I know Daniel touched on this. Any NBA team would rather face the number 1 seed than the number 2 seed in 2021 because the number 1 seed is the 76ers. Now, quickly, I do want to bring up the Celtics for a second. Again, the Celtics are going to have the same mindset, but here's what I'm thinking. Do the Celtics take the risk and lose to the Wizards so they can get the 8 seed? I say no. I think the Celtics could lose to the Hornets, who I predict to beat the Pacers. But I do have something in the back of my mind. I want to hear Daniel's thoughts after this. I think, and I think some Celtics fans will agree with me. I've saw some people on social media say this. The Celtics should miss out on the playoffs. They need a lottery pick, and they're going to be a first-round exit anyway with these injuries. I think they should get ready for next year and get a lottery pick. That's what I think.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'm not going to answer for Daniel. Let's let the Celtics guy talk about that. That's a great recap of the 7, 8, 9, 10, the play-in tournament. Let's bring in the other guys now, and we'll start talking about that. Because what we want to do now is we want to talk predictions. Before we get to that, though, Daniel, Isaac said the Celtics best bet because, and again, I'm not going to add any commentary. His point is that the Celtics need that lottery pick to start the rebuilding process. What do you think? Oh, we can't hear you, man. I think you're muted.
Hello?
There you go.
Okay. I know where he's getting that from. I saw a Twitter account the other day tweet to Celtics fans, hey, what would you rather want? And surprisingly,
I found it on TikTok.
Oh, well, then I didn't know where that came from. But
there's
there
multiple sources. Multiple sources. More credible, right?
Keith Smith. Do you guys know who Keith Smith is on Twitter? Yeah, I love the dude. He's so underrated. But anyways, he tweeted saying, Celtics fans, what would you rather want? And surprisingly, missing the playoffs won. And the reason why I say surprisingly is all season long, all Celtics fans are complaining about Neesmith, Pritchard, Langford, the previous lottery picks the Celtics have had, saying the Celtics don't have any experience. So, and I don't want to promote it all the time, but in my podcast, I talked about that today. Wouldn't you rather have your Neesmiths and Pritchards and Tatums and Marcus Smart get quality playoff time together than potentially be the 12th in the lottery compared to like 16th or 17th? Well, it's not that big of a difference. And just give them experience. Because, again, I don't think the Celtics are winning the championship. I don't think that's a bold take whatsoever because of the injuries and whatnot. But I just don't – and it's just very non-Celtic-like just to tank and get a lottery pick. That's just also insulting to Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker saying, hey, we understand that you guys are working hard right now, but, like, we need to lose these games for their long-term future. That's how superstars demand trades because they're not trying to win. So I understand it would probably be smart, but I don't see any possible way that it would ever happen. I mean, they could lose, but I don't think Boston would intentionally like rest players to do that.
Now, an argument for you quickly is Brad Stevens wants to stay as the Celtics head coach.
I think he's here for a very long time. I've seen a lot of people don't like that, but I think he's going to – they signed him to a contract extension that they will never disclose, but it sounds like he's going to be here for a very long time, at least as long as Ainge is in charge. I love him. I think he's one of the best coaches, but for some reason everyone's just on him that he needs to be fired, and I do not understand.
Yeah, the Celtics, on top of just being the Celtics, right, a storied franchise that really they're held to a higher standard, than a team like, say, the Thunder or the Grizzlies. The Celtics, you've got to be there. You've got to go for a championship. You at least have that potential every year. Lakers are in the same boat. Heat are really in the same boat now. There's an expectation there. And that makes it harder. But some years things just aren't going to go right. It happens to every franchise, man. And the worst thing you can do is to just start to, kick out coaches and start to bring in recycled and hope that things are going to be different. I hope the Celtics stick with this group. Personally, I know you didn't ask my opinion. You asked Daniel's, but I'm going to chime in. Only because, one thing I've come to find out as we started working with, a partnership with the basketball league, FL teams also being a partner there. This is a minor league group of basketball players that are in the G League who are phenomenal basketball players. Some of them went undrafted. There are just a certain number of jobs available in the NBA, but there are more great players, just like there are great analysts that aren't on TV, and you're looking at some of them here. There are great players that aren't in the NBA. And when you draft low, It's up to the front office to find those guys, the Manu Ginobili's, right? The Time Lords, the guys that, you could develop. I my hope for a team like the Celtics, and to me, I've talked a lot about this on Twitter, the Sacramento Kings as well. Now, obviously, I'm not aligning the Kings with the Celtics, but I'm saying the Kings are in a good position. They've got some good pieces. They've just got to build around them. So I hope that happens for the Celtics. I really do. All right. That all being said, it's prediction time. This is the longest show we've done, but it's kind of cool. I love talking basketball with people who know basketball, so it's fun for me. We got 2 games coming up. Pardon me, 4 games. 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday. Let's start with the Tuesday games. The 9-10 games. These are 2 teams that in a normal season would have been out, would have been home, would have been fishing already. Instead, they're playing for an opportunity to get to play for the 7th seed potentially, which is pretty amazing. Oh wait, no, playing for the 8th seed. They're not playing for the 7th seed, but they're playing to get in. That's either Indiana, the Pacers, or the Charlotte Hornets. I think, Isaac, you tipped your hat, or what's that term? Tipped your hand. You tipped your hand because I think you said that the Hornets are going to win that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I'll leave that there. Daniel, who you got winning? Charlotte. This is a one and done. There is no makeup game for the loser.
Exactly.
Loser's out. The winner gets the 8th seed. Who wins between Charlotte and Indiana? Daniel.
I have Charlotte.
Okay.
You've seen the things with Indiana. Apparently the players hate the coach after 1 year. That's just like a horrible thing because look how good Nate McMillan's doing in Atlanta. Just completely turned that franchise around.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love Domantas Sabonis. He's one of my favorite players in the league. He's super underrated. Levert's good. They have some good players, but I just think the Hornets, if they could hit like 50%, it's a high number, but they can of their threes. I feel like they're just a really good team to stop. And I don't know. Something's telling me that the Hornets are going to win this one.
Okay. What do you got, Jay?
Despite all the turmoil, as Daniel said, I got the Pacers winning this game. I think the Pacers defensively, they're going to slow down the game, and that's how you really stop the Hornets. If you can stop LaMelo Ball from grabbing the rebound and starting the fast break, then you can pretty much shut the Hornets offensive down. They got the rebounders to do it. He alluded to Sabonis, and then I think Miles Turner's back. The only questionable injury is going to be Malcolm Brogdon. So I'm trusting a more experienced roster, despite the turmoil with their coach, to at least give that one last ditch effort and get into playoffs. Because these players are prideful, so these players don't want to be known as like, oh, they lost the playoffs to an up and coming young team. The Hornets will have their time where they will make the playoffs, but I don't think this is their time yet. I think the Pacers are going to win this game.
Great analysis, man. All of you guys are saying what I'm thinking. And generally speaking, when it comes down to kind of a more veteran team, especially in the playoffs against a new team, I always lean on the veterans. They just tend to not panic under the pressure. LaMelo Ball's a special player.
Yeah. By the way, I know you were speaking about Kobe Bryant's, moment.
Yeah.
This may be his moment a little early, which is a good thing for him.
For LaMelo?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of where I was going with this. He's a different kind of player because he came into the league, having played professionally. He never played college, right? So he's been playing professionally for a while, but there's still something unique about the playoffs. It's a different time. There's a different pressure, and he's never experienced that. And I think he's a key to this team. So yeah, to me, it's 51-49. I mean, this is a toss up. But if I had to pick, I do think the Pacers were probably going to win this game, but that's as far as these Pacers are going to go. All right, now it gets personal. We're gonna do it in the same order. Isaac, I think I know your pick. The Boston Celtics versus the Washington Wizards. Who wins?
Easily the Wizards. I think this is
going to be. You said easily.
One of the many times I yell at ESPN's odds. Vegas odds saying the Celtics would win. Russell Westbrook is unstoppable. And to be realistic, this Wizards seems better than the Celtics right now because of the injury with Jaylen Brown. So, that's that. I think, obviously, you don't really need to say, oh, maybe Bertans needs to have a good game. This guy needs to have a good game. It's really just Beal and Westbrook. They can carry the team. And Westbrook, we've seen him in the playoffs before, and there's no question that he's going to get a triple-double because he does that every game. And again, in the playoffs, you play a lot of minutes. And hey,
Mhm.
he gets triple doubles after the third quarter. So on a regular game. So I have the Wizards winning this easily.
All right, it's a little dark where Daniel is. Not totally dark, because we can see you really well. But I didn't see your eyes roll, but I kind of think I heard your eyes roll in the back of your head. So you're up, man. Boston Celtics, Washington Wizards. Who wins?
I mean, I think the Wizards have the better duo. I think Westbrook and Beal are better than Tatum, and just because of Walker hasn't been as good as he has been. But I think team-wise, I think the Celtics have a way better team. They have better depth, and I'm not depth, but just like a better starting five at the very least. But I kind of want to roll with Isaac. I feel like this is a game Washington is going to win. I'm a Celtics fan, but I also want to be a little bit realistic. The Celtics have had some troubles recently. And like, again, maybe it's a little part of me that wants the Celtics to lose that is making me think that the Wizards are actually going to win. But who knows? Since I want the Celtics to lose, and all season long they've done everything that nobody wants, maybe they're going to win and they're going to face Brooklyn in the first round, which no fan wants right now. But I think that Washington's going to win this one. And by the way, I would love to see a Washington and Brooklyn series. That would be awesome.
Yeah. High-powered offense on both sides. That would be a 140 to 137 game.
Westbrook versus Durant.
Yeah, that would be pretty epic.
Oh,
All right.
it's 3 versus 1. That's what it's always gonna be. 2
Wizards picks. Jay, what do you got? Celtics or the Wizards?
I'm not gonna say easily, but I'm gonna lean towards the Wizards. The only reason I say lean is because that Bradley Beal hamstring injury, that is a serious injury for a player that does a lot of scoring. So I want to see how that plays out in the game. We know Westbrook's going to do his thing, whether he gets those 20 efficiently or not. He's going to get his triple-double either way. Another key point why I say lean is because the Wizards' defense is very inconsistent up and down. Like, it's worth, like how we mentioned the Lakers pick their spot. The Wizards can't even pick their spot. Sometimes they have a great stretch, or they'll the other team go on a crazy run, and then they'll get blown out. So this game can go either way, honestly. But I'm gonna lean towards the Wizards side of winning this one by like 4 points. I don't think it's gonna be like a blowout or anything.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna lean on the wisdom of the Los Angeles Laker great Pat Riley, who is and will always be a Los Angeles Laker great. He said defense wins championships. Now, this isn't for a championship. This is play-in. The defense still matters, right? So, he said earlier that, when it's a veteran team against, a new team, you go with the veterans. When you've got 2 teams that are matched up where one is kind of disjointed, not a good team, but one is a good team that has been together for a while, that's the Celtics. The Celtics are a better team. The Celtics play defense. Because of all of that, and the wild card for me is Bradley Beal's injury. We just don't know. I don't think it's going to be great for Boston because of who they face next, but Boston should win this game. I'm picking Boston to win it. I'll be the one outlier there.
I won't be stunned if Boston wins. I'll just say that. Like, I feel like it's kind of like with the Indiana Charlotte. I feel like it's 51-49 to me as well. I think I could easily see Boston winning this game.
Yeah. And you know why I would be stunned? Because I think Tatum's gonna have around 20 points. If Tatum has like more than 35 points, I would be stunned, and which means I would be stunned if the Celtics win. So they obviously correlate, because if Tatum has a good game, the Celtics could very well win.
I was never a fan of the play-in tournament, but these conversations, it's kind of cool. I mean, there's some value there.
Well, now it gets more interesting, right? Because now we have to go to the winner of the 9
more convoluted, but also more interesting. Agreed. Yeah. All right, let's jump to Wednesday real quick. We got the West. We've got the 9-10 matchup first. The Memphis Grizzlies.
Oh, by the way, are we gonna say the winner of the loser and winner game of the?
No. We'll wait until that's settled, and then we'll come back and do that.
Let me just say something.
Go ahead.
Gordon Hayward is gonna hurt the Celtics if the Celtics lose against the Wizards. Hayward's out on Tuesday, by the way, but I have a very feeling that he's going to play against the Celtics if they lose, obviously.
I don't think anything would keep him from that game, personally.
He wants to get redemption against his former team.
Sure.
That's something Daniel will be very upset against if Gordon Hayward.
I think he left them. I'm not sure how that played out, but we'll save that for another time because it's a good, interesting topic. Memphis Grizzlies, San Antonio Spurs. Isaac, we'll keep it in the same order. Who you got?
I have no idea. These are one of my least watched two teams, and
I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the honesty. I've done that before because I don't watch a lot of. I don't know a lot of the East teams, so that's fine. We got one unsure pass.
I mean, hey,
Daniel.
let me tell you, I'm gonna guess it's a toss up in this one too, right?
Not to me, but let's see what the guys say, and then if you want to chime in after you've heard their thoughts, you're welcome to. Daniel, who you got?
I got Memphis
first. Memphis?
I don't think that San Antonio is going to win this game at all. I really think it's kind of favorably Memphis. And at the same time, Memphis is still mad last year from how they got out of the playoffs and from the play-in when they thought they deserved to be the 8th seed. And then the play-in ruled if you had to be within 4 games, that really screwed them over. I feel like they have that little chip on their shoulder. Jaren Jackson Jr. came back at the end of the year. He's a valuable piece of this team. And I respect the Spurs. I do. Their second half of their schedule was brutal. A lot of back-to-backs, just really tough. And I've counted them out before, and I've paid my price for that. But right. I do not see a way that the Spurs are winning this game. I just feel like the Grizzlies want it more, and I think that they're going to get it.
Yep. Perfect. Jay, who you got?
I got Memphis as well. I think Ja Morant, this is going to be his moment. Like, how we've been talking about the Kobe moment. I think this is Ja's moment to get his team to the next round of the play-in game so they can get that 8th spot. And then the only thing that would worry me about Memphis, particularly in this game, if you watch Memphis, any of their games, they can have some of the longest lulls you'll ever see for an NBA team where they can't even score the basketball. And San Antonio, surprisingly, they're not that bad of a scoring team. DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gay, Keldon Johnson, they get the 3 at a high clip. So that's my only main concern for Memphis, specifically against San Antonio. If they go on one of those long lulls, they might lose this game, but I'm going to lean towards Memphis and slow the game down and having an all-star worthy point guard. Not to say DeJounte Murray is like a bum or anything like that, but I just think Ja Morant a tier clearly above DeJounte Murray. So I'm going to lean towards Ja and the Memphis Grizzlies this game.
I love how we're all kind of referencing, everybody's Kobe moment. I think that's pretty special. This is absolutely Ja's moment, no doubt about it. I just got done saying when you've got a veteran team against a young team, you go with the veteran team. It doesn't get any more veteran than the San Antonio Spurs. This is a veteran team. They've got some great young pieces. They've got a veteran coach. They've got a great system. They are always in the playoffs. But Ja Morant is special. Valanciunas plays, he plays well. He's a great piece. I like this team. This to me, I wish Renee was here. He covers the Spurs to get his thoughts. But Daniel, you said something that really resonated with me. I have been counting out the Spurs for probably 6 years. They just never, to me, look like they're going to be good, and they're always good. But I'm going to do it again. I think Memphis is going to win this game. This is the one that kind of doesn't sit well with me because I will always go with a veteran team. But I think Memphis is going to find a way. Hey, Jay, you got something? Go ahead.
Yeah, you said Jonas Valanciunas and Ja. Another player I want to throw in from Memphis. He doesn't really get a lot of credit. He's one of those players that you hate when you go against him, but if he's on your team, you love him. I love Dillon Brooks. For whatever reason,
he locked up Curry last game, man.
Yeah, I like Dillon Brooks a lot. He plays with hustle. Some of the shots he takes are questionable, but you can never outcount his effort when he goes for the hustles and rebounds. And he always is that second player besides Jaren Jackson that helps Ja with some of the scoring lows. So I think Dillon Brooks is going to be huge tomorrow as well.
Nice. Yeah, it's going to be a fun matchup, I think. That's going to be very interesting. Old guard, new guard, Mm-hmm. That takes us to, undeniably, the highlight game for the NBA. You got, 2 championship teams, 2 of the best players of their generation playing against each other. This is a marquee matchup. It's a bummer that it has to happen, as part of the play-in as opposed to a, legit series, but it is what it is. The Lakers versus the Golden State Warriors. Nobody is as hot right now as Steph Curry. He is a legit MVP candidate. LeBron James himself said he's the MVP. This is interesting. This is for the 7th seed. Winner gets 7. Loser plays the winner of Memphis, San Antonio. Isaac, who is going to win, the Lakers or the Warriors?
This is really tough because, again, we don't know exactly where LeBron James is at. And what gets even more harder is we haven't seen LeBron James have this tough of a game in a while. Obviously, we've seen the Lakers play the Suns this year with LeBron and other teams. But I'm talking about the big minutes that LeBron usually plays in the playoffs. And this is not a one game and you're done because the Lakers have the 7th seed. But
Right.
it's a must-win game. And then we look at, Golden State, who really have, only Steph Curry. Obviously, Draymond Green is one of the, best NBA players this year at passing the ball to his teammates. Wiggins has been good.
Mhm.
I don't think Kelly Oubre is healthy, right?
No, he's out.
Yeah. I'm always going to go with LeBron in one of these games. Steph Curry is slightly worse than LeBron, but let me tell you, Steph Curry can easily have a better game than LeBron, especially because LeBron is injured. But look, I'm going to go with the Lakers. I don't think it matters because I have Golden State beating whoever wins, Spurs or Grizzlies.
Right.
But it's such a tough game, and I think Andre Drummond and the Lakers' depth is going to definitely outplay Golden State's depth that really doesn't have anything on the bench.
Okay. All right. 1 vote for the Lakers. Daniel, who you got winning this one?
To Isaac's point, I think that no matter what happens in this game, I think both teams are making the playoffs. I don't see the Spurs or Grizzlies beating any of these teams in the next round because I just don't. This one was tough for me, but I'm going to go with the Warriors. And hear me out before you think I'm just because I'm a Laker hater. Yesterday, the Warriors needed to win that game against Memphis. If they lose, they went into the 9-10, and a loss would have got them out of the playoffs. A bad game from Curry and Wiggins, and they would be out. They won. Steph Curry had 46 points. Yes, he shot 36 times, but he knew he had to do that in order to win. And he's probably going to do that he shoot at least 30 shots almost every single game in these playoffs.
Yeah.
And something's telling me that he's going to put up a historic performance on Wednesday night. I do not believe it'll be a blowout. I believe it'll be a good game. The Lakers' 2 wins, I believe, against the Warriors were complete blowouts. But something's telling me that Curry's going to do something magical. Wiggins will have an efficient 20 points. Draymond Green's probably going to have like 4 points, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds, something like that. Right. Something's telling me the Warriors are going to win this game.
Wow. All right. Jay, what do you got?
I got the Lakers winning this. I think the hype is good for the NBA as far as like they're going to get the eyeballs to watch this game. Unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to live up to the hype because the Warriors outside of Draymond and Steph Curry are fairly a young team. And you're going against an NBA championship title contender team with the Lakers who just wanted last year, even though this Laker team is fairly new with the new pieces. They switched in and out, with Dwight and things of that nature. But I'm just going to trust what I saw in the regular season that the Lakers blew out the Warriors twice, and their game plan was to basically bottleneck Steph and let the others beat you. And those others aren't just simply good enough to beat you unless Klay Thompson's out there, and he's not going to beat there tomorrow. Right. So the Lakers, I expect a blowout tomorrow, and the only way I see the Warriors winning is, like Daniel said, it's going to have to take a letdown on the Lakers' part, like the Game 3 the Warriors won. The Lakers were up 20 that game as well, but they had a letdown, and on top of that letdown of playing sloppy basketball, Steph Curry went off as well. So it's going to have to take a Laker letdown on a lack of focus offensively and defensively. And Steph Curry is going to have to go on a historic shooting night just to beat a LeBron James or Anthony Davis Laker team. So I think it's going to be a blowout, honestly, once they play. So I got the Lakers winning this handily.
Right on. Word out of LA is that LeBron's healthy. There's no minutes restrictions. He's just going to play. That changes everything, right? If LeBron really is healthy, AD has been on a tear. Drummond is kind of I prefer Marc Gasol personally. I think he's a better fit, but Drummond has been a 10-10 guy, and he's working really well with the other two. And then you just got that Lakers ridiculous depth, right? You got Kuzma, you got THT, you got KCP. I mean, my gosh, it's gonna be tough to beat that team.
Is Kuzma gonna go off in the playoffs?
No. Kuzma is unfortunately, the king of inconsistency. If he has one game, he'll have 2 bad ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wish it wasn't that way, but that's just
THC
that's kind of who he is. THC is going to be who he was in the bubble. He's a very good player, you know, but the thing is, the Lakers team knows their role, right? There's no squabbling, you know, there's no Shaq and Kobe kind of thing where, you know, who's the alpha. Everybody knows, and LeBron is the guy.
Including Jared Dudley. He knows his role.
Jared Dudley. Jared Dudley's great at his role. Jared Dudley, Daniel, there was I think it was ML Carr from the Celtics back in the 80s who just used to wave a towel, man. He never got minutes. He'd wave a towel. And when he'd get in, he just annoy everybody else. He is the new ML Carr. If you don't know him, look him up. But yeah, Dudley knows his place. THT knows his place. Everybody knows they're a good team. They're a really good team. And you know, I think we were talking before, you know, they're elite defensively when they need to be. So if everything is clicking for the Lakers, I don't see them, you know, losing to the Warriors. What is interesting is we just don't know about LeBron's ankle. At 36 years old, things don't heal as quickly as when you're 26. And there's no doubt that he's hurt. There is no doubt that he's even said, I'll never be 100% again in my career. So we just don't know, man. One tweak, one loose ball, you know, one slip, you know, anything. And LeBron goes, and I'm not wishing this on anybody, but if LeBron isn't 100%, the Lakers are vulnerable. And that on the flip side of it, and you all have talked about it, if Steph Curry can go off, and he is one of the only players in the NBA who could literally win a game on his own. He's just that special. It could happen, which makes it really interesting. But I think, I just don't see anybody not picking the Lakers under the assumption that they're all healthy. But what an incredible matchup that is.
I just want to say something real quick.
Please.
I think Andre Drummond, that signing may have been the most overrated signing in the NBA history. People were talking like that was the steal of the millennia, like it was the greatest signing ever. And I remember you responded to my tweet, Jose. I was just like, I really don't want Boston to get him, and that aged really, really well.
I'm not a fan. I think Gasol is a better fit. Certainly something we can discuss another time, but I've been real vocal about that on Twitter. But it is what it is. They needed somebody to be Dwight Howard, and he is as close as you're going to get.
And who's the most underrated signing in NBA history? Dwayne Dedmon.
Yeah, he's been real good for the Heat. Plays for the Heat.
Yeah, I know. Isaac's got to have the last word with his Heat. We went longer than the song. That's a first. that by far the longest. I'm gonna start it up again. The longest show we've ever done. But man, super fun. I doubt that anybody's watched this beginning to end because there's a lot here. Usually when I'm clicking around and I see 1 hour for something, I keep going. I don't have that much time. But super fun talking to each of you. Again, we're the Peach Basket. We're a site dedicated to basketball. We believe that the best analysts aren't all on TV. The best analysts are right in front of you. Isaac, Daniel, Jay, and we got others. Hopefully they'll all join us. Thank you for being with us for 1 hour, 3 minutes, 14 seconds today. Sorry we went so long, but I think there was some real value here and some great content. We're going to be back. I'm not sure when, but we're going to be back throughout the playoffs. And each time we'll share a little bit more news about what's coming for us. Some exciting news ahead. Thank you all. Enjoy the playoffs. I'm going to let you go. And by turning this up a little, third time. Wow, we were really long-winded.
Thank you, Jose. I have to go.
All right, guys.
Bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass, right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money. You can cash it. For news on LA Hoops, come over to Peach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports. Debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Peach Basket. The Peach Basket. Come and tune on there, the Peach Basket. Where the news begins, we're dropping news like we're in the stands. Creative views from the average fans.